Net Nostalgia Forum, Television, Local. Skyshell 033. Subject: Candle Cove, Local Kids Show. Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found a reference to it anywhere. I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it. It was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike Painter, 65. Subject: Candle Cove, local kids show. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland when I was 9 years old in 72. Candle Cove, was it about pirates? I remember pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Skyshell. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, really low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll, looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF though. Jaren, 2005. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Skyshell. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple of months in 71, not 72. I was 12 when I watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove. It was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughing Stock. Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily, and there was Calliope music constantly playing. I don't remember the girl's name, Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Skyshell. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back to me when you mentioned the laughing stock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face. With the lower jaw submerged, it looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had an awful Edwin voice and laugh. I remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike Painter, 65. I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Skyshell? You have to go inside. Oh, Mike, I got chill reading that. Yes, I remember that's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was, and the camera would push in on the laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and flopping foam jaw, and the fishing line that opened and closed it. Ah, it looked terrible. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was like a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin Hart. I honestly thought Pirate Percy was the villain. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare Fuel. Jaren, 2005. That wasn't the villain. The puppet with the mustache was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think it meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe they let us watch that back then. Kevin. Jesus Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of kid show were we watching? I could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his screens, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape. His glass eyes were too big for the skull. Christ almighty. Skyshell. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Wasn't that supposed to be children's skin? Mike Painter. Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close, his jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the skin taker didn't look at the girl, but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin." Skyshell. I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and the characters were there. But the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were screaming, and the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, screaming and screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she'd been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. That was an episode. No, 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 no. Not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, it was literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin. Maybe I'm making up the memory like you said, but I really remember watching that. They just screamed. Jaren, 2005. Oh god, yeah, the little girl Janice. I remember seeing her shake and the skin taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening wildly. I thought I was gonna break his wire hinges. I turned it off, and that was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother, and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike Painter, 65. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s when I was 8 or 9 if she remembered a kids show called Candle Cove. She was surprised that I could remember that, and I asked why. She said, "Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, 'I'm gonna go watch Candle Cove now, Mom,' and then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show." And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Candle Cove. Frankly, it's a classic for a reason. I would say the story is scary. It's not really supposed to be. It's just like, oh wow, that's a really creepy show. And then, it turns out that everyone was imagining it. That's really interesting. And props to Chris Straub, the one who wrote it. And if you recognize that name, it's because Chris Straub also created Local 58, one of the first analog horror series. Dude's great at what he does. I recommend you watch Local 58, or if you don't have the time, go and watch a YouTube channel summarizing it. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, freaks and geeks, children of all ages, I hope you enjoyed the Creepypasta Power Hour. And with that said, sleep well tonight.